Have you been watching right-wing media? I hope not. But even if you haven't, the fine folks over at Media Matters often like to help us by, bringing the clips that are, the most egregious, or I don't even know if I'd say that. The clips that we need to know what they're saying over on the right wing so that we can be both informed and armed. Here is Tucker Carlson, always burning up my eyeballs with the things and earballs with the things that he says. Tucker Carlson lied about Fauci's testimony on schools reopening. So here he is. He has really an unhinged rant. What actually happened is that following a question from Lamar Alexander about the guidance Fauci would give to the chancellor of the University of, in Tennessee, Knoxville, about reopening campus in the fall, the public health official said, I would be very realistic with the chancellor and tell her that in this case, the idea of having treatments available or a vaccine to facilitate the reentry of students in the fall term would be a bridge too far. If this were a situation where you had a vaccine, that would really be the end of the issue in a positive way. But as I mentioned in my opening remarks, even at the top speed we're going, we don't see a vaccine playing in the ability of individuals to get back to school this term. Now let's listen to what Tucker Carlson.
So just to be clear, Fauci was not simply talking about certain workers or even all workers staying at home for the foreseeable future. He implied that schools and colleges will be able to reopen only if there is a cure for this virus or a vaccine. He said that prospect was a bridge too far. In other words, no school until the coronavirus has been cured, stopped. The problem is there is currently no approved vaccine for any of the several coronaviruses out there. We still don't have one for SARS. So that may never happen. Once again, it has never happened. Fauci's recommendation was headline news at almost every media outlet instantly. Fauci cautions about schools, colleges reopening in the fall, said the LA Times. Fauci warned Senate the reopening U.S. too quickly could lead to avoidable suffering and death. And so predictably on with the hysteria. Fauci says the children must stay home or countless people will die. That's the message. It's time to ask a very simple question. How does he know this exactly? Is Tony Fauci right about the science? Do we have any particular reason to think he is right? Well, right now, there is an awful lot of evidence indicating that America should cautiously reopen. Sweden never shut down at all, and it doesn't appear much worse than the United States on average. Many countries in Europe have reopened schools, and they have not seen a spike in cases. The state of Georgia partially reopened weeks ago to much hysteria and finger wagging from the press, and yet hospitalizations in the state of Georgia are lower than ever.
But what about the cases? This disease can actually have a long-term effect on people, even if they're not hospitalized and intubated.
No one has explained why exactly schools specifically must stay closed. There's a huge cost to that, massive, an entire generation of young people not being educated, because let's not lie to ourselves, they are not. And yet, as of right now, very few people under 18 have been seriously hurt by the coronavirus. So when he was asked about that, Fauci simply said, we don't know that children are, quote, completely immune to the virus. Complete immunity? Since when is that a requirement? Children are not completely immune. Indeed, they're vulnerable to countless diseases, many of which are far more dangerous than this one. The flu, for example.
This is ridiculous. So basically, he's, oh, God, I can't even.
Is much more dangerous for young people than the Wuhan coronavirus is. It's not a talking point. It's factually true. Look it up. And yet only this virus is being used to deny young people an education. What is this exactly? Some lawmakers are starting to ask that question because it's so obvious. There is no science on the other side. Senator Rand Paul, who is a physician, by the way, asked Fauci about it during the hearings tonight.
The history of this, when we look back, will be of wrong prediction after wrong prediction after wrong prediction, starting with Ferguson in England.
Well, that's funny because he just made a prediction about how everything's going to be a wrong prediction. So that means, by extrapolation, his prediction is going to be another wrong prediction.
So I think
he's like, since we can't always be right with science, I guess we'll just throw it out.
We ought to have a little bit of humility in our belief that we know what's best for the economy. And as much as I respect you, Dr. Fauci, I don't think you're the end all. I don't think you're the one person that gets to make a decision.
Fauci clarified his remarks later, saying, "I didn't mean to imply that to imply at all any relationship between the availability of a vaccine and treatment and our ability to go back to school." The clarification was even included on Fox 6's news sideshow. Here's the clarity. Just a second. Let's do it.
Every sentence to Dr. Fauci must be prefaced with, "As much as I respect you." That's required by federal law. But Senator Paul is on to...
Asshole. Am I allowed to say that on act.tv? I mean, this guy is... that is ridiculous. Ugh. He's not even good at sarcasm.
Something. A lot of wrong predictions have come out of Washington on the question of the coronavirus, and quite a few of them came directly from Dr. Fauci himself. We're not singling him out or attacking him. We've certainly made a lot of wrong predictions on this show, but we're not in charge of the entire country. So it's worth walking through a few of them just for the sake of the aforementioned humility that Senator Paul was talking about. Today, for example, Fauci spoke about how happy he was to see Americans going about their lives while wearing masks.
Okay, we're going to watch a tiny bit more of this, but I do want to see what's chiming in. In our very intelligent stream chat, Political Puppy says, the Sweden thing is BS. Sweden didn't do lockdown and had several times more deaths than the other Nordic countries. Not a good case. Also, Iron Maj puts in a link that I suggest everyone go to for people curious about the mystery illness affecting children. Cuomo is directing New York hospitals to prioritize COVID-19 testing for children showing symptoms of that mystery illness. So children are getting the mystery illness. I love how Cuomo in his press conference was like, oh, first they said that's not touching children. Now we've got that. So, you know, the truth comes out. I just love the way he does that. Love him or hate him, I really like the way he presents information. Okay, so here is Fauci clarifying his remarks, and then hours later, Tucker Carlson just ignored the context from his own network. Fauci is clarifying his remarks on Fox, and then they just ignore what he said anyway.
Federal health officials warning lawmakers today the consequences could be really serious for reopening the nation too soon, noting that we're not out of the woods yet.
My concern that if some areas, cities, states, or what have you, jump over those various checkpoints and prematurely open up without having the capability of being able to respond effectively.
Dr. Anthony Fauci likely alarmed millions of parents when he talked about sending America's children back to school.
The idea of having treatments available or a vaccine to facilitate the reentry of students into the fall term would be something that would be a bit of a bridge too far.
Fauci tried to clarify he's not suggesting waiting for a medical breakthrough.
I did not mean to imply at all any relationship between the availability of a vaccine and treatment and our ability to go back to school.
Fauci told senators every effort is being made to find a remedy.
We have many candidates and hope to have multiple winners. In other words, it's multiple shots on goal.
A most unusual hearing today.
Here's a question. What is so bad about not being able to go back to school? I guess we can't go back to work if we can't go back to school, because working and watching kids is very, very difficult. But there could be, if we open up partially and do it safely, there could be other alternatives to full schooling. My own daughter I just got a letter from the New York City Department of Education saying she's, going to be in the preschool at this particular place. I just got that word yesterday, but they didn't say anything about whether they're actually going to be a preschool or if they're doing it differently. A lot of talk in different areas about how to do things differently. Have kids come part-time so there's smaller classrooms. There's a lot of talk about different things that can be done.
With expert witnesses leading the Trump administration public health response, testifying by video conference in the age of the coronavirus pandemic. Chairman Lamar.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, Unfortunately, as Media Matter reports, if Tuesday's ratings from the prior week are any guide, it would be fair to estimate that at least 1 million more people watched the false claims on Tucker Carlson on that May 12th show than saw the full context on the special report. They're basically just trying to paint the picture that the left wants to keep the economy in the tank forever, which is not true. Collective TV on our Twitch channel says they want real rioting. Make me spend another school year with my kids at home. If they want real rioting, make me spend another. Oh boy, that is so funny. I love it.